Hey pack leaders, so the first thing I want you to know is about creating defines. Defines are subroutines or functions that you create to compartmentalize all your code so that you can kind of reuse the code. And you want to make it as simple as possible and then build and stack on top of each other and kind of like creating the letters and using letters to create words, and then the words create sentences where you can reuse the words or reuse the sentences as you create the paragraph or the story kind of thing. Okay, so you want to kind of simplify them as much as possible so that you can reuse the code. But there are certain times where, let's say you create a function with 3 inputs in it, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I need to add a 4th one, but then you have other code using 3 inputs, and then other ones using 3 inputs, and all of a sudden you need to add this 4th one. Well, if you add that 4th one, you have to change it for every word that's being used, and it's a pain to kind of track where it all got used and all this other stuff, right? So that's kind of what I've learned to they don't teach you this, so this is the standard. I've created a template for it so that I'm going to put in this video below where you copy and paste the code and just paste into ubot and you'll be able to see the stuff, okay? And there's also conventions too. Whenever you create a function, a subroutine, you need to use the name of the tab that you created, which I'll show you in a bit. Reason why is because once you create the subroutine, you're like, okay, I need to find this subroutine. Where did it go? I don't know which tabs it in. So what happens is that when you create the subroutine as the name of the tab, you know which tab to go to. Okay, so let me show you that here. So here's a convention. If I create a subroutine called verify inputs, I need to put utility on there. So if I create another one that says, hey, I'm gonna do a utility. So I'm gonna name this the same as that, so I quickly find, because once you have like, you develop, you have like 10, 20 tabs or whatever, and you're like, where can I find this utility that says get or retrieve, ABC retrieve, bot parameters for examples. There it is. Then you know exactly where to find it, because eventually once you get to here, let me show you one that I have right now. You see there's all user settings. I know that I need to find user settings. It's in the user settings tab. If I need to find something tuning, it's in the tuning tab. So especially when you go and open up something and you're like, where does this function that I'm using that's buried deep within your stuff, like let's say I know that this one has a lot of stuff in here. So let's say you get a little peek inside. I want to use this user settings. Where do I find this? Well, it's easy because I see user settings. I need to go to the user settings tab to find it. Okay. Now I did mess up here. I would use the exact same caps, user settings exactly as is, just to be conventional and clean with your stuff here. Okay. Now I did do that in some I kind of forgot to. So this is probably something I would fix later on, or if I reprogram it again, use the proper one. So I know initial guess main, this is all the stuff that's going in here. I know that initial guess main is in the initial guess stuff right here, initial guess phase. I can then find this function in there and then interact with it, okay? So that's one thing to help you find things, and that's very important that you use the same name as your functions. As far as the name goes, you create any name you want. It has to make sense. You just have to be consistent and congruent when you use them. Okay, so let me move that out. So here, let's say I'm gonna create a sample. I'm gonna call this like examples functions. Of course, I'm gonna go with caps. That's just my convention. And then what I'm gonna do now is copy and paste this. Okay. So once I copy and paste this, I'm gonna go ahead and call this examples, and then I'll create a ubot tutorial. So input example. Alright, so I did that and create it. Okay. Now one thing I want you to know is that as soon as you copy this and that and put it in here, you might have to, it doesn't recognize it yet unless you see it does show. Okay, it does show. Okay, So if it doesn't show up here, you're like, I created it but it doesn't show up, you might have to do a little quick edit to refresh it, and then click OK, and then it'll recognize it. But when you copy and paste things, it makes it go away for some reason. It's just kind of like one of those U-bot deals. So now I have 2, and then if I kind of look for it, it should not show up. Sometimes it doesn't show up. Okay, so it doesn't know which one to use, so then U-bot will kind of remove it for some reason. Okay, so you know how you can enter multiple input parameters here, but conventionally, if things change, if I have 2 inputs, right, input 1, input 2, and then if other things are calling this function, and all of a sudden you add a 4th one, you have to change it everywhere else. Okay, let me kind of close this out here. I think it's closing. Oh, it doesn't like the 2. I think it doesn't like numbers. Okay. There you go. So now it's good. So you have input 1, input 2, input 3. Alright, so let's say I go in here, it lets you enter 1, 2, and 3, right? But let's say you want to have a 4th one and you're using this everywhere else in different functions, it's being used multiple times. You have to actually like create it again. Let's do a 4th one now. Now this one is, you have to kind of modify it now because there's a 4th one now, and you have to like kind of swap it out everywhere else, and we don't want to do that, right? So the best thing to do is to not create all that and to put them into like a list, and I'll show you what that means. Okay, so that when I do change, I can then just use this one, and then I can just use the same thing. Okay, so now if I do it, I could just put input 1 as this, shift enter 3, shift enter 4. Same thing, I can still bring them in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but it's all looked at as one input. Another way you could do is also, you could do 5A, if you have different inputs this way, you could put a lot more into it, okay? And what this will do, it'll break it down and extract it out, and this is what this is set up to. So I'm assuming that you took in the tutorial. So basically it brings everything in as this one input here, and then it's going to delimit it by new lines. So every new line is going to be added into this list. So here, this list will have 1, 3, 4, and then the 4th, index number 0, 1, 2, 3, index 3 will have 5, comma ABC. You'll need to break that comma out by saying, hey, this is input 1, right? Input 2. And this would be, actually that's input 1, so I'm going to use this as the list item of that input, and on until input. I'm going to go ahead and just jump over to input number, the index basically 0, 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to put this as 3, so it'll probably has to pull this out as this, input 3. And once you kind of do this, test it, always view it and see where numbers are. So now this one have this, but then this has to be delimited by this. Clear list. So let's say in here there's bot parameters. So we need to break that out into individual parameters so we kind of see what's inside. So once you have a background, you understand. If you don't have a background of this, it looks foreign to you, okay? And we use this plugin called HealPass, list from text. And I will use the HealPass plugin, and I'll put that link somewhere. But basically, this is going to be delimited by commas of this one here, which we're going to break this one out, break this text out. and we're gonna keep all the empty ones. So if there's any empties, it'll consider as a space. Okay. Now once you're in there, then you can say, hey, set, and then you can say, hey, this is a number, and that's list item 0. And then, so this number 1 represents this because we broke it out into commas. That's 1. If we want the A, we need to put in with the next number here, bot parameters. This would be 1 because that was A. And then I'm gonna call this letter A. Alright. And this is actually position 1, not position A. There we go. Alright, so then that's bot parameters. So it's pulling out of that in a comma delivered form because it's in comma, and then you can pull as many variables as you want. So as it grows, all you do is just enter that comma or another value here, or you can create a new line, and all you do is break them out here. Okay, you don't have to go back and modify all of them because this one requires you to add and modify all wherever it's being used, the same thing. Okay, and this one here, it works just fine. You don't have to modify everywhere else. If it is being used, then you have to go into that function and say, hey, there's new parameters. All you do is break them out and then pull these guys in, and you don't have to change them all over the place. Okay. Now after we do this, we want to create a comment. Okay. So I have a comment here that tells you which each one is. So 0, I'll say, hey, this is the input. This is the maybe the let's say this is the RSI 1 B bands. So I'm giving them numbers 2. So you kind of give them what these numbers represent. MACD, and then 3 is a list of names or something like that. Okay, in comma 4. Okay, so once you do that, then you can then create that. Okay, but what I also do now is like an example of that, and I'll paste them in here so that you can see what's going on later on. Okay. All right, and then once that's there, you have to kind of create this curly brackets in order to kind of put into these notes, and a comma to wrap them around in order for it to see it. Okay, so kind of remember that. That way you can see it. So then when you need to use it somewhere else, I copy and paste it into another parameter. All right, so now that I can give you a gist of it, let me just kind of put it together on an actual thing here. Okay. So I created multiple functions, but I'm using them, but I don't know what's in those fields, so I have to create it, right? So you can kind of see, here's my notes. I know what these parameters represent. You know, this one represents the bot parameters, bot set of values, my headers, indicators, indications. Market direction is bool, and then stop loss and hold, which I need to add because I just added more stuff, so I need to add what's in here, okay, and edit them over time. So here I did not edit them, so let me go ahead and just kind of fix that. And remember, this is in a comment, so they're not being used so that you kind of quickly use them. Okay, so I edit that. Click, click, click. Shift Enter. So this is bool is market direction. So stop loss, I'll put like, hey, 0 for stop loss, and then hold until profitable, true or false, true. So now I know what everything means in that parameter. Okay, hit OK. Good. That way, when I want to use it, I can grab this, copy it, and I can move it to a different function and then use it. It tells me how to use it. This is what it tells me what to do and what needs to be in there. So as I go in here, I'm going to show you parameters where things are being pulled out and kind of separate out, add it to a list, and then you want to break them out as this is the bot name, this is the bot GUID, this is the settings here and there, and then you then want to verify the inputs. Okay, so these are all broken out so you can quickly see where things are at. Okay, and so here's one where I pulled it in, right? I don't know how to use it yet, so I pulled it in. It tells me what these represent. I open it up. This means this means that, this means this, so then I know what to do to put it inside. Okay, and here is to verify the activity. So you always want to check your values. This is the old one. Let me show you a newer one that I kind of added later on, because you want to print it onto a text file. So when you run it, there's a text file that you create that will be able to show you the history of what's going on, and it helps with troubleshooting it. Okay, so you kind of see what's going on, timestamps, and it's better to see it in log than on a thing. Okay. Alright, so it'll be more clear as I kind of push on. Maybe just kind of take care of the simple part here. You see I'm verifying the inputs here, so this kind of records everything so I can see everything that's running, and in the variable see everything is showing up or not. This is also a thing that I'm going to give you guys in the code below. Okay, so as you run through, you kind of see where I verify, I can check things, and then I'm using functions in here. I'm trying to find a part here that let me see here, here it is. Yeah, I'm using main tune phase, right? Tells me what's in it and what these represent. So this represents all the settings I'm going to tune right here. This is the GUID and then parameter names. Okay, so now I go over here and I use it. So I believe I used it in main phase 2. I think I used it here, main phase 2. So I used it right here. So this should have been like I think I dragged it down, but then started adding some stuff and pushed it up. So anyways, so I know what to do now. My header settings, bot GUID, and then the indicator parameters are in there. Okay, and that represents these inputs here. So I know how to use it now. Okay, same thing here. This is what needs to be in there. And this is what it represents the moving average type. And that retrieves all the moving average types. And then the parameter variable list right there, and the parameter value list is right there. Okay, so that gets used right here, and I put all those inputs in here. All right, so these comments are just comments to represent what you created and how to use them, and it's great to kind of bring them in, and that way you can kind of know what these things represent. Okay, so that's the standard for that. All right, let's move on to the next one. Alright, so let me delete that. So this is the template. I'm going to copy and paste it in raw form, and then that way you can break it out, okay, and use it. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this training, and I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay, so use that to, when you create your new define, just copy and paste it, name it, and then that way you just put one input. You can put as many inputs in that verify in there. Make sure you make your comments and then test it, and then go from there. Okay, it will make more sense as I create some examples, but I just want to give you overall. Thanks for watching.